Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the podcast. On this episode I sat down with John Rutter. Now, apart from being an absolute legend of a guy, John is part of an organisation called the Fathering Project and more recently the Fathering Channel, which they just launched. Now I'm going to read this because I don't want to stuff it up, but the Fathering Channel is a virtual community to support dads, kids and families with all of the challenges of social isolation, working from home, juggling homeschooling, financial hardships, and the impacts that these can have on the family. The channel will release new content daily featuring podcasts, videos, chat forums, research-based articles, and light-hearted celebrity conversations. Now, after seeing this advertised online, it really caught my interest, and once I looked into it, I realised what a great initiative it is. So I thought, let's get him on the podcast, dig deep into why he's doing it and what it actually is. And I want to encourage you as well, if you're not a father, which I'm not a father, but I got so much out of this. So I think the principles that he shares in this conversation are not just applicable to fathers. These are principles that each and every one of us can apply in our everyday lives with all different relationships that we have. I had a blast chatting to John. I learned so much. I know you will also. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and tell me if you enjoyed this in the comment section. I love hearing your feedback and growing this community together. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation with John Rutter.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about it. The Fathering Project. What tell us all about it? What's going on?
Yeah. So the Fathering Project. So I joined the Fathering Project at the beginning of the year, but it's been going for about eight years, and it's interesting that I've been following the project from WA where they started for a couple of years, just being a subscriber and having their weekly dad tips and that sort of stuff. And fathering is a passion of mine. So when I just came across them one day looking at what programs are out there in my school chaplaincy capacity, I was looking at what are programs out there for dads and that sort of stuff, and I come across the Fathering Project easily a couple of years ago. But the Fathering Project started, would be about 9 years ago by a gentleman named Dr. Bruce Robinson.
Okay.
And what's cool is that he's a lung doctor, lung specialist, and so he was having these end of life discussions with gentlemen from asbestosis and unfortunately lung cancer and things like that. So he said often his doctor surgeries suddenly became this counselling space where he was having these discussions with men, and they were having the realisation that their life is coming to an end, maybe earlier than they expected. And he said there was this common theme that would come through, and there was three sort of things that they would say, and one of them was, I spent too much time in my career. I regret that, and I regret not being as better dad or the best dad I possibly could with my kids and spending time with my kids. And the third thing was, I wish someone told me when I was much younger those things so I could get the balance right. And so he was just constantly getting this message and thinking, what's with that? What's with fathering, and why is this happening? So he actually wrote a book to start with and saying, Dads, this is I'm hearing, and I just want to be the one to give you the message, get the balance right. And there's these men that have gone before you that are really saying, listen to, be the best dad you can be and get the balance right. And so after that, let's start this foundation. And so I've been operating out of WA for about 6 years. What's brilliant is that he's being a researcher, he not only just went, well, okay, there's anecdotal evidence here from these men. Let's have a look at what the impact it is on fathering into society and mental health, and where does it reach? And that's where the power comes from the organisation in some capacity, because it's allowed us in the last couple of years to get federal funding and go national. And so from this early finding, I suppose, in WA, and then therefore starting programs and saying, well, how do we engage with dads and maybe give them inspiration and some skills and tools to engage in the fathering space. They've been able to sort of test and measure, I suppose, in WA, and now give us a program to go national. So, so I joined this as sort of went into Queensland. So it's really cool for me as a school chaplain at the time. I was just contacted through the network, through the Youth Work Network, and say, hey, with the Fathering Project starting in Queensland, are you interested in having a look at what they're doing? So
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool journey actually for me.
That's so good. So that's so good that they've now got the funding, or you're involved in it. That you guys have got that funding to go
Yeah,
national, especially at
yeah,
this time. I think I saw on the news last night. I saw it on the internet. Especially at this time, there's so many like fathers that are gonna may not be working or working from home that are now in this such closer proximity with their kids, and
yeah.
so that might be a huge shock for them. Hey, they might be going, oh, hang on, this is all new
Right,
to me.
definitely.
How do I do this? So
Yeah,
are you
absolutely.
guys as an organization, you're able to give them some tips and skills and programs
Yeah.
to help with that, eh?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think it's made us more relevant. I mean, I think we've
Mm.
always been relevant, but it's definitely an opportunity where we can maybe cut through. The difficulty is that everyone's taking that opportunity as well, saying we've got the answers, and we haven't had to change our message a great deal because it's really about fundamental principles on building a relationship with your kids. That's it. So it doesn't matter what sort of crisis we're going through, what situation or scenario environmentally we're going through, these things are still relevant. But we just had to change the way we do it because we would deliver a lot of our content through dads groups and gathering physically in schools and workplaces and community hubs, childcare centres and things like that. So we obviously can't meet physically, which has been a core part of our program, I guess, because it's about connecting men and wants men to get together and go, oh, well, you're actually having the same struggles as me in life, in fathering, in marriage, whatever it is. As men just going, oh, wow, thanks for, sharing and having that that
There's
connection.
something, there's something about, especially as blokes, we kind of seem to think, we're the only ones dealing with this. And it's this irrational thought that we all, and most of us kind of I think a lot of us know this is irrational, but we just, I think it's like something that's in our wiring or our makeup where we go, I'm doing this on my own. I've got to figure this out on my own. I think that's quite a primal, primitive.
Yeah, I believe
thing.
that. I think you're right. Yeah, I think it is a primal thing. I think there's a need for us to get it right. We don't like being wrong. And I think that fathering and parenting is a really vulnerable space for us. And so sometimes it's easier to just withdraw, especially if we think that mum's got it handled. Like, you're pretty right. I think everything's going okay. I'll step in when there's a crisis maybe or when I have to. But I think it's easier for dads sometimes to abstain. And then we take that position and it feels comfortable, so we stay there, But there's something powerful, and that's what's great about, again, the Fathering Project is the research had shown that there's something different that dads give that mums can't. And that's not discounting the role of mums at all. In fact, mums are probably doing more than they need to in raising our kids. And we see that definitely when family breaks down and mums have to really step into that single parent space, But there's something powerful. So it's more about presenting an opportunity for us men to go, you actually have you have the cut through that mums maybe don't have with our kids, that can speak directly into their self-esteem, to their really affirming who they are and their character. And again, we sort of talk about this in the organisation, that early on, it's like our kids can work out mum pretty quickly because mum's there almost 24/7. Like early on, right? She feeds us, nurses us. She's that real love, that touch, that softness, that response. But there's a time where it's like a radar on top of a baby's head. But I look around and go, I see you a fair bit, actually. What's this? Who are you? What's your role? So we're trying to work that out. So I say to men, you get to define that. Don't just hang about and don't sort of miss the opportunity to step into that role and go, actually, I'm the, if it's traditional, let's say safety and security for the family, or I'm the leader in some capacity. I don't want to, it's sensitive space. Well, not want to set traditional, but just say, what do you want to do? Are you setting the values? What role do you want to have that really sets up, that beautiful space for the family and influencing your kids?
Yeah.
So,
especially I think as well, like we seem to have, and both mums and dads have it, but there's all these different kind of, this is the way it should be. This is the way it's portrayed in these movies. This is the way it's portrayed in this TV show. This is what you see on the person who's really famous on Instagram. And so I think as a parent, I'm not a parent myself, so everything I'm speaking right now is what I imagined is the case.
Yeah.
But you go, well, hang on, which one am I? Like which role do I have? And then how do I then, how do I take a blend of those potentially? I think that's a lot of pressure. That could be a lot of pressure to constantly going, am I doing the right thing here? Or that would be tough for sure.
Especially when we realise that it's not life and death, but you're messing with you're taking responsibility for someone's life. And I found it really great. Steve Biddulph is someone who I've read his books, and I think he's a great he's a child psychologist and a really fantastic author in this space around fathering and raising boys. He's written a book around raising girls as well. And excuse me, and seeing him speak once, he talked about that parenting is such a vulnerable space, and even his whole work is around that. And there's so much guilt around it. We feel so much guilt around parenting, and we're not doing good enough, and we all relate to it differently. But he talks about the moment that you have your child for the first time and you hold them, and there's that moment. And I remember that for my son, who's now 14. I think, wow, I'm a dad. I wanted to be a dad for so long. It's like, wow, at 30 years old, I'm dad now, and this is amazing. And I remember looking at him thinking, this is awesome. But it wasn't long after thinking, oh no, I've got no idea. I've got no idea. And I do remember that. And when Steve was talking about it, I thought, I actually really remember that. I remember that moment of thinking, oh, I'm responsible for you. I haven't done the best thing for myself in my life. How am I going to now take responsibility? So it is. So it comes with a fear, definitely. So it's like we tread into it so carefully. And often again, we said to dads, look, if you do PD for work or your business or anything else, just look at fathering and do some PD and some development around that. And it doesn't take much, because it does come naturally.
Yeah, like I read a lot of business books and things like that, and they talk about how, if you look after your people and you cultivate like a good culture of people and really build them up, help them to be the best they can possibly be, their life's going to be so much better. I think some of these guys and women they're incredible at doing that in the business world. Sometimes that doesn't necessarily get translated into their personal life, where they go, well, hang on, I'm spending all this time and money and giving these guys experience and learnings. Why aren't I doing that with my own children? It's so crucial. Hey, the more that I'm kind of growing up, and you sort of you with your friends, you see them on a trajectory because you all go on a trajectory together. I'm seeing that my mates who when I was a kid and I used to go to their house and it was absolute chaos, right? Like, and as a 12-year-old, I used to think, man, why can't my parents be like this? With hindsight, I'm going, okay, I see what's going on. And I now see some of the traits and things that they've gotten from their parents that are very destructive. And it's made me so thankful. Like, my parents weren't perfect. And I'm by no means a perfect human being. I just asked my wife that. But
that's right. That's good feedback.
I'm so grateful for like the values and the time that especially my dad spent with me. And at the time I was going, God, I just want to go to the skate park or something. But now I'm going, I'm so thankful for that. It's
isn't it funny?
Yeah.
And we don't realise how the value of it until we do look back. And I think that's the hardest part. And that's where I think from a parenting perspective, it's thankless. We've got to go into it knowing that they don't get it. They don't get it. But what you said there is perfect, which is the values. And that's why I think it's really important that we at some stage, and this is what Tony and I also teach in our programs, is that which is my wife. So we're both youth workers, and so what we'd seen often in family breakdown, often we're supporting families in that space, or we're looking at supporting young people with sort of mental health issues that are starting. We really love working in the prevention sort of area, or that early intervention space. And what we'd see often is that parents and families, we just get into this reaction mode where we're reacting to situations constantly, and so and the children are leading the way because they're the ones who access, well, they're setting the pace in some ways, saying, I want technology, or I want to have this app now, or my friends are doing this, can I go? And so as parents, we get into this, I'm not sure, what do we know about this? I mean, look at each other as husband and wife or co-parent or whatever your situation is and go, where do we feel about this? So we make these short-term sort of reactionary decisions around this space without having a real long-term goal and understanding what values are we there. So often when we work with parents of older teens and they just sort of, shaking their heads going, man, how do we get to where we're at now? And I say it's easy because what we do is we put a head down and just react and not have that long-term vision. So values are really key. I think that's the one thing. That's why I like the Fathering Project as well, is it's very value-based or principle-based. Relationship is the number one key. That's got to be in the center. And all things would come from that. And I would say that if you look at your parenting experience from your parents, that what's been successful or that's brought you close that's been an understanding, there's been a relationship in the center. And they may not have got it right. You might not have got it right, but there's a respect that came because of that.
Yeah,
that mutuality.
definitely. Sure. Yeah, certainly. So, but if we go deeper into the Fathering Project, what are some of those main principles then, would you say?
So the main one we look at is, I guess the best is the bus principle. So we look at the buses and we say, men, just get on the bus. It's pretty easy. And so it's an acronym, so BUS. The number one, so B is be there for your kids. And what's beautiful from that is there's so much content even in that, just in that one word. Well, what does that mean to be there? And so this is about being present with your kids and spending time showing interest in what they're interested in. And again, it's age appropriate, I suppose, but being there early on, just to support even in the family, being a team member as a dad and helping mum out, making sure that you're really present and that when your child is looking around with that radar, that you're there and you're relevant and those sorts of things. But the being there is, we'll often say that a child needs 8 minutes or 9 minutes of attention a day. And you think, easy, we're killing it. But what that actually is eye contact, really listening in and being focused in what they're doing and giving them that sort of unconditional, attention. And so the being there is actually really focusing on and being present. So an example of when I've got it wrong and myself, even though just recently my daughter's playing basketball and she's 10 now, so she just started in the last year. And so being a present dad, I'd go to the games. And I think, cool, I'm being present, I'm being there, no worries. But what I'd noticed is that my phone was getting in the way. And so there was a time where Tia had come over to me when the breaks and said, did you see that, Dad? I just, got a basket. And she hadn't had many. And I was like, actually, no, I missed it. And then I was like, how did I even miss that? And it was that a notification picked up. I thought, oh, what's that? On a Saturday morning, and I choose an email. How ridiculous. But we get into that trap.
It's just it becomes a habit, isn't it?
It becomes a habit. So I just quickly went on and thought, I'll just nail that out now. And, looking up every now and then, but I missed that crucial moment for her. And I think, so in the being there, it can be like, oh, yeah, I think I'm there. But I just encourage dads to keep analysing and going, where can you just tweak what you're currently doing? It's not about doing more, maybe being more to your kids. It's by just being really, really present. Yeah. And the second thing is that is unconditional love. So that you in the bus is unconditional love. And this can be hard for men because maybe we haven't seen that in our own fathering experience. We've all got a father story. And if we haven't seen and experienced unconditional love, which is that safety that comes with that real certainty, then that can be actually hard for us to replicate. But again, I encourage men to have a look at what does it look like to love your children no matter what they do, no matter what the behavior is, that they never feel that you withdraw love from them, that they never feel the vulnerability and that love is transactional.
Yeah.
And again, that can be a trap because we often, if that's what we've seen, if that's what we've felt in our own journey as a young person, then we often do that. So again, I just encourage men to look at that and go, when my child and I'm correcting discipline or disciplining my child, do they ever feel that actually love's being withdrawn away, speaking into the behaviour rather than speaking into them? If that makes sense.
Yeah. I've seen that, like, even some of my friends now have kids, and I have some couple of nephews, and there's times when they're, as someone who's not their parent, they're at the table or something, and they're just chucking a massive tantrum. They're going crazy. There's a part of me that goes, and this is not the right thing, but it's going, man, someone needs to shut that kid up and just go and put him in the corner somewhere, But then what I do, and like I've watched my friends do this, and even my brother and my sister-in-law, they will do that, but they'll always be making sure that the boys or my friends' girls understand why this is happening.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's really cool is one of our friends, every time that the kid always comes back from sort of time out, they have like a little 5-minute chat where she says, I love you. This is why we did that.
Yeah.
And when I first saw that happening, I was like, man, this seems unnecessary. But the more and more that I've seen it, I've gone, that's critical. Like that's crucial.
It is crucial. It is.
And so I think that's probably an example of that. You can still discipline your child, which still needs to happen because your child's still learning things, but you can do that in a way where your child still, there'll be times where your child just cannot comprehend that this is for the good, but the reason that they're in a timeout situation or whatever that may be is for the good. But if you can constantly try and reaffirm, this is for the good of you, this is because we love you. That goes a long way in years to come for sure.
Absolutely.
That's really interesting.
I think and it's what's key is you want that time. What are the critical years that you want to have a relationship is teenage years. And so all of those early years, you're setting up habits that you can trust me with things. You can even trust me to correct you. Like that is a loving thing to be able to correct someone and say, hey, I just want to give you a bit of feedback. Even as a teen, I often will have debriefs from social situations with my sons and say, hey, and it'll be always out of the limelight, say, hey, I just want to talk about today. When you said that, actually something you said today was you thought was funny. I just want to let you know that you don't understand what's deeper in that comment, or those having those debriefs and go. So we're building trust, and that I've got their back. So the unconditional love is a subtle thing, and I think what you described is really great. Is that debrief is key, and that you're speaking to the behaviour, not the persons, or that you're naughty, or you always do that. All those sort of things. We've got to take that language out and say, correct to the principle and saying we're actually kind. We believe in kindness, and what you did, you behaved today and showed wasn't kind behaviour, and that's not something we stand for. So you're correcting and saying, here's the path on how you do get right. And this is where you've just gone a little bit wrong, and I've got your back. And that do they feel the safety? It's a subtle thing, but it's very powerful because, again, it's showing value. And most of our, I believe, and definitely my youth work study, and even in my own life, most of the problems that I've had, let's say problems or the mistakes that I've made have come from low self-esteem and low value, where I've been scrambling in life and not recognising, maybe not having enough emotional awareness to know, I'm actually acting out of a real low value space here. So this is where we really want to be able to speak into our kids' lives more critically than anything else, is that they feel the value, and we get value from people taking interest in us.
Definitely, for sure.
We're nothing better than our parents. So, unconditional love is a key one. I was fortunate that I had that in my own life. I'd got in trouble as a teenager with the police, so I was serious enough for that. And my dad got a phone call at work, and so I was 15 at the time. And he come home and he says, I had a phone call, and this is what it was. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is super serious, And I felt absolutely his disappointment, and that lasted with me forever, actually. But he said, I'll walk with you. You got to take this one. You got to take the consequences of this, but I'll be there. And he did. And so I've got a reference point of what that felt like, which I feel very fortunate for that. But I felt that Dad, still loved me because I was his son. That was it. So he was never going to, but he definitely wasn't happy with what was happening. And that was an instant change for me. I definitely made some changes in my life, but it could have gone the other way, because the other guys that I was with at the time that got in trouble as well had maybe different situations, and they had a different recovery, let's say, from that. So it's again, as men, it's worth us working out how do we really make sure that our kids know that no matter what, doesn't matter what you do, you're still my son or you're my daughter or whatever it is.
There's something really key about what you just said before, how you you felt that difference in the way that your dad reacted to that. I had that similar experience where I got in so much trouble as a kid. I was always a rat bag. I was a middle child, just caused my parents so much hell. Like they definitely grew a lot because of me, that's for sure. But I remember my dad, he was quite well, he's still around, but he was quite he would raise his voice a lot to kind of discipline us. And but there was this time where I really did something. I can't even remember fully what I did, but there's something different about the way, excuse me, the way that he disciplined me. Like you could tell that he was deeply upset, like deeply disappointed.
Yeah.
I never did that again. I was like, I don't want to make you feel like that. Whereas when he was yelling, you're like, this will all be over in 15 minutes and we can go back to happy lives. But there was something that changed where I went, I'm not doing that again. That was interesting.
Yeah, it's true. My dad was pretty quiet. And so we didn't often get yell. My mum was a yeller. There's no question at all. I was raised in a yelling family from mum. That's how she would get things done. But dad was definitely quieter. So he had cut through, and I really believe that that's our role. Exactly that, like your experience. That and I noticed that if I accurately correct my boys and I get it right, I don't have to correct my daughter that much. She's pretty good, but definitely speaking to my boys in their teenage years, that there is something if I don't get emotional about it. If I say, no, boys, that's not it, or and there is something about it. But yeah, definitely, Dad's disappointment was the number one thing. I remember thinking, I've let him down. I've really let him down. And we do hold our dads in high esteem, I think.
Yeah.
So this is why I think the power of the bus in some ways is in the back end of it, because once you do this, you're investing in the relationship. Therefore, that's the one thing. I don't want to sound like you're holding that against the kids, but that's the tool, because it's no longer about discipline or taking the phone off them or right, you get this or time out, or that doesn't work, because we're always balancing. I can cop a. Yeah, I'll do that for, have my phone for work, no week. Who cares? You look at that, it's all transactional. But once you've got a relationship and you say, oh man, I feel really hurt by that, that's real. And there's a void now between two people that has to be repaired. And so then in the repairing is where there's strength. And so by using this bus principle and working on relationship as the center, that is the thing that's so powerful.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it brings me to the S for the bus. I'll finish that off. So, which is special. It means special. So it's recognizing in your kids and affirming in them what is really powerful, what is special in that relationship, or within their character, I should say. And sorry, I've got beeps going on here.
No, that's all right. Missed notifications.
Yeah. But the S is about recognizing the special qualities of your kids that are individual to them. And so I've got 3 kids. We're a blended family now between Tanya and I. So that's a different dynamic. But so we brought 3 children each to our marriage. And so even having 3 kids as they're growing up, you almost treat them as one. Is it like, come on, kids, we've got to get these guys done or this. As they get older, it's really important, especially in that sort of tween space as it is now. So that 10, 11, 12, maybe 9 space is that you start to really date your kids and actually spend time one-on-one and find out who they are individually and keep on affirming that sort of stuff. And like you, as the middle child, there would have been things about you that were unique to the others. And so, it's recognizing those things and calling them out, or just even affirming those, even if they're negative qualities. Sometimes you might say, oh man, you're stubborn, but you know what? I reckon that's probably going to turn into great perseverance when you're older. it's being able to recognize and actually put words around it, because identity is key. We actually grow into the identity that we see and hear that sort of dialogue in our head. And what I believe about myself, I become. So as dads, using that S, it's not simply flippantly saying, yeah, I think you're special, you're my kid. It's actually going, you know what, you can actually shape their belief system by saying, man, I love how creative you are. You've got a really great sense of humor. You know, all those, like, you're sporty, or when I watch you play sport, something I notice about you is you work hard. Yeah, look, and they might say, but I can't play well yet or something. Yeah, but that'll come, because what I see in you is perseverance. So we've got that opportunity to really speak into our kids' lives. And it's so powerful. So the BUS principle for us, as far as a fathering project, that it covers most things. If we can simply walk around and go, have I been on the bus today? You know, simple as that.
Yeah,
and again, encourage
it's nice and easy as well, isn't it? It's not necessarily easy to put into practice, but it's a nice, easy analogy to remember. Whereas some of them, they go, "Oh, this is our principle," and it's flipping 8 letters long. Before they've even finished the principle, you're like, I don't even remember the first couple of letters.
That's right. Yeah, I'm not even. That's all seems too hard. And we understand, men. We've got to be easy.
Yeah,
guys, because we've got to know. Because what's in the back of my mind, I want to win. So how do you give me the success on how I'm going to do it, and I can do that. So that's powerful.
I want the practical. Yeah, I want a formula, and I want it to be simple so that I can do those simple steps the best I can possibly do them. Yeah. That's exactly. Going back to that the S principle, for instance. As the middle child, so my dad was a tradesperson, like a tradie. My older brother and my younger brother, very practical guys. And so naturally, and I don't have any sisters, so it's just the 3 boys. And Dad, one of the ways that we would kind of do one-on-one things with him would be go and work on the car with him, or go and he was a marine electrician, so go and work on a client's boat or something. I think he quickly, well, not quick enough for my liking, but I was never really into the whole, like, I'll work on a car or do something. I used to be a tradie, but I've never, like, it doesn't make me tick. Like, I don't get off on fixing the car's alternator or something. I'm like, I just want to drive it. But Dad figured out, or maybe Mum persuaded Dad to figure this out. Richard, he's not actually into that as much as possible. So I was really always interested in, like, the aesthetics and the making something look nice, or because I'm a bit more creative. So Dad, some of the things that I'd go and do with Dad, then, instead of going down and fixing the engine on the boat, he'd be like, come down, help me clean it, and we'll have lunch or something. The other boys, it sounds silly, but the other boys would look at that and go, I don't want to do that crap. Whereas I'd go, that's what I want to do, because there's a reward. And that was, I think, looking back, that was my parents kind of figuring out, these 2 boys are this way, Richo's a bit different. Let's that's it. That's interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that until you said that.
That's cool, isn't it? And that's great insight for them to be able to do that, because and again, you know, it can easily go the negative, and fathers, we also have the ability to wound our kids, you know, and there's some great literature around the fathering wound, you know, and we do, because often if we miss the moment, and I've seen that many times in school chaplaincy and youth work, unfortunately. So that if we miss the mark too, and again, this is the hard thing, because now we're saying to dads, there's this knife edge, you've got to get it right or wrong, and so it can be a bit tough, and that makes us, scared of that, I suppose, in some ways too. But yes, it's and maybe it was your mum that supported that. That's what's great about parenting as a team is as that third person going, hey, just wanted to let you know there's a bit of a blind spot you might have on this one, that you're so keen to be there with your child, but you're not listening to what they want or recognising who they are, you know. And so, again, often in youth work and in the fathering project, we say to dads, well, you know, take as much interest in what your kids are doing as much as you take interest in them, or you love your kids as much as what they're loving, you know. So if it's gaming and you can't stand gaming, just go and sit with them while they game, or get and say, can you show me a game? Let's play a game together. You know, do something. It's amazing what happens when we flip that and and suddenly your child goes, "Wow, you take interest in me," you know. And again,
I think as well, if you say, "Hey, I'm going to take interest in you playing Fortnite or whatever it is, and we're going to play this for half an hour to an hour," and if you do that every now and again or often, I think then when you do say to them, "Hey, let's go and do something else now. Let's go here," they're more likely, well, hopefully they're more likely to go, "You take an interest in me. Actually, we can hang out now together," rather than you just saying, "You've got 15 minutes on that or half an hour. And if you don't, I'm going to throw it in the bin or whatever." I used to get that a lot as a kid. But whereas if they said, "Well, come and," you might hate it, but if you spend the time with your son or daughter doing that, and then you can build up that relationship and trust so that go, who knows, a few years down the track, they might go, "I'd rather spend time with that person one-on-one than with the game. Let's just, not that gaming's bad or anything, but."
No, but it's in balance, but it can be a blockage because if I've got a judgment call around it, that sits in between. It's a brick wall between our relationship, and I've even done that where my boys have asked early on for M-rated games, and I'm really passionate about that and going, "Oh, this is not right," and I don't want them exposed to violence or simulate violence and all that sort of stuff early on. Thinking you don't need to, just stay as young as you can as we go, and there's a natural progression of things. But I recognised that it was actually becoming something between us, and so I said, "Look, why don't we get?" I think it was Call of Duty that we first started. I said, "Look, let's get Call of Duty. Only thing is, we play it together.
Yeah,
is that we do it together." And so they were like, "Awesome!" And then there was this great thing happening where even they would play and I'd watch and we'd just be together. But it allowed me then to say, "Oh man, we've been doing this for half an hour, 40 minutes now. I'm actually feeling a bit stressed out by this constant violence," or whatever it is, right? Why don't we have a break? And I had so much more influence by being part of it than walking in the door going, "Are you still playing that thing?
Yeah.
Get off that." You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So, and I could also speak and go, "Oh gosh, this is actually full on." And then there's times where we could actually even have discussions around war. And there was all these other things that happened. Go, "You know what? These things you're doing here, these scenes we're playing, these were actually campaigns." So there was actually this opportunity for us to talk about stuff and then have real life discussions and try and even just shape them and say, "This is actually why I struggle with violent games," or whatever. We're talking about values, and we're suddenly having this value discussion because I was able to sit with my kids at an early age.
That's awesome.
And sit next to them in gaming or whatever. So we've just got to look at those opportunities with relationship in the center. That's so. What would I do for our relationship? Start there and do it, because often we focus on parenting when really we should just start facilitating life for our kids and guiding them. And that's a different mind shift then, because now we're looking at them going, "How do I have greater influence?" Or how do I put people around you that are going to be good influences on you?
Yes. Yeah.
Rather than parents that we've got to get it right, we've got to do everything, we've got to know what to say here and do all that sort of stuff, and then take the pressure off ourselves.
How do you feel about? So I've sometimes heard this comparison made around like, I think so often as adults we go, "I want to find a mentor in my life, someone who I can kind of sit there and chat with, who can give me advice and lead me on this path." I've heard that there's this debate between, as a parent, do I want to be a mentor do I want to have that more of that mentoring relationship, or do I have this sort of parenting? There's quite a divide that can happen there. Do you think that there is a space for that to be like a blend, like that mentor relationship could be more incorporated into what we're doing in parenting?
Definitely. I absolutely agree. And I think that I would almost make a distinction, and we do in some of our programs, and this is outside of fathering projects, so I won't confuse that. But in some of the parenting programs that Tanya and I run through our organisation Authentic Steps, so that is we say, I think there's this clear distinction where you can start the transition at least from parenting, where, and I define parenting as where you're raising a dependent child, someone who's dependent on you, and you are parenting them, that you are helping them with the decisions, you're setting things up, But what you're moving towards from early on as you can is preparing for that mentoring space. Because one thing I recognize in my own life, and maybe this is the same for you in teenagers, I was going to do what, no matter what, my own thing. My parents, once I realized that my parents had zero influence over me, or not influence, control, that I can actually do whatever I want, then they'd lost all power. And all that was there then was relationship. That exactly with Dad's situation, if he'd said, and got off his nut, I could have just gone, well, I'll go to my mate's house. That's it, and I'm out. But because there was relationship, I was like, oh man, there's something here. So we've got to make the transition into being that mentor. That we have to show value in that we're taking life seriously, and we come as humans, we come under successful people easily. Businesses are led by great CEOs or great leaders.
Yeah,
we've got to see ourselves as parents that at some stage our lack of control. So if we keep parenting just on simply discipline, this is the rules, like it or lump it, that sort of stuff, then our kids are eventually going to go, you know what, I'm actually going to choose my mates to hang out with more because I feel more understood by you. I've got a relationship over here. All my emotional needs are being met over this space. But from that 10, 11, 12, I think it's a really critical time that we start to transition into a facilitator and mentor, and we start to say, follow us. We're leading a really successful life. Take some skills from this, follow us and sort of lead our kids more. So even the reference you spoke of before, even in business, where there's great business books and mentors and things, so many of those principles can be transferred straight into family life because it's people management.
Yes.
It's actually saying, how do I lead well and how do I role model? And most of the sort of behavioural issues that we see or parents would come to us for support with, I'd say, how are you going with that? And one of the things is devices. So, I can't get my kids off devices. And I go, tell me about your habits with devices? I'm like, what? Or how do you go with turning work off in the afternoons? And does the TV go on as a habit? So just look at yourself, and it's not criticism, but saying you can't expect something from your kids that you're not doing yourself.
No, exactly.
Yeah. So us as role models. So I think there's that mentoring space. Even isn't about just constantly putting it to the kids. It's actually saying, look at me, and being a person of influence over your children.
Yeah.
Because they'll choose it either way. A lot of us as adults do the opposite to what our parents did because of disliking it so much. So we've just got to recognize that our role isn't to make them do stuff; it's to influence as best we can. And so if we concentrated as when we're raising teenagers as being the best adults we possibly can, and show that we have purpose, that we speak positively, that we're good humans out in the community, our kids will see all that stuff and pick the best parts, and hopefully that's what they'll carry through. But again, I am very big on creating an intentional village around your kids. So if the kids are playing sport, getting alongside that coach and saying, hey, you're actually a person of influence in my child's life. I really value you. Thank you for doing that, for starters, because often that's volunteer. But these are the things that we really want to instill in our kids. Are you able to support us in that?
Yeah.
Look at your teachers, there's all these people that are all around your kids. Why don't you get on the same page and put them in the center?
That's so important. Hey, it's so interesting. We're talking because I do read a lot of sort of business books and personal development stuff, and you find that the older books, so the ones that are written say more than 20 years ago, they use examples from the family to in business. So they say, if you want to build the culture build a good culture in your small business, look at how you would do that in a family, this sort of thing. I feel like now we've sort of not even flipped it, but we're not doing that as much anymore. I don't think we're looking at those family values as something that can be brought into everything else. Like even before, we were talking about the opposite of bringing those sort of what we think is good practice in a business, bringing that back into the family. It's really interesting how there's been that shift somewhere along the lines. What do you reckon why do you reckon that's happened? It's like families haven't been perfect forever, obviously, but something about that family dynamic has changed.
Yeah, definitely. I think that most sort of people who operate in family support space really look at the difference in the industrial age has taken our role models away and broken up the family, where dad now leaves the home. And again, that sounds traditional, but that's how it used to be. When the industrial age started, it was like they were enticing fathers away and saying, don't be a farmer anymore. Come and work in our factory. It's much easier. You'll get paid. There's going to be better, lucrative. So then, but that all dads were now no longer being in the community. They were moving into a city or wherever. So dads were being removed. The role models were being removed from the home. And so I think from even that point, if there's not a plan around that, and we see this with fly in, fly out as more of an extreme version of that, if you haven't got a really proactive plan about, okay, cool, so what are we going to do? What are the important things that we need to have in the home? And are they all here when I remove myself as a role model? So I think that the struggle is that we are reactive as humans quite often. And so the antidote to that is being proactive and going, what do I need to have in the household, whether you're here or not? What are our value systems? What is our mission? Again, if you take that business space, one of the greatest family books I think is out there, and I use it for most of our program content, actually. Some of the principles is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. And because he is all about principle-based and character education. And so the same thing in your organization, you're raising good quality people and you're leading well and you all live under a value system, but it all starts with a mission statement. So what is your mission? Yeah. So what is your vision for your family? And so if you're now a fly in, fly out worker, why? Why is that? If it's money, fine. Okay. I'm not having a go at anyone, but just saying, but make sure it's got some context and there's some reason to it. It's not just opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, we can make a stack of dough over the next 4 years and we can own our own home. Let's do that. The divorce rate, so look at all those things and go, well, what's the mission? The mission is that we want to be financially free. Okay. That could be your thing. Then it makes sense. But is it also part of the mission that you want your kids to be connected and have great relationships and that you want them to be good humans and that they understand right from wrong, they're able to self-regulate, that they're self-starters and that they have ambition, so that's a pretty powerful vision. And then if you were to have the conviction of the vision, maybe being a fly in, fly out worker wouldn't actually match.
Yes.
Is that, what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the number one thing is have a vision for where you're headed. And so Tanya and I, when we talk about it, we look at our youngest, who is Tia, my daughter, that we have a vision of what are we aiming for when she's 20. That's our timeline. What do we look for? That our kids are still connected to us, that they want to come back. We think of these as a blended family, especially, that we have these massive Sunday lunches where everyone comes back, and it's not out of obligation that they want to, that our home is a really welcoming space for their partners. And so we have a vision around that and think, okay, if that's the vision and that our kids are connected, so let's go roll back. What does that look like now? Is that relationship is key, that we support each other now, in our endeavors. If someone's doing something at school, even if it's a project, we've got to do an oral presentation. Let's get around and support that person. Let's give them feedback. Let's make them be the best they can be, because we want that culture when they're all adults and maybe they're in business. I would love my boys to ring, or be in business again, whatever, but they can ring each other and go, man, I'm going through this at the moment,
Yeah.
That's part of the vision and the culture that we want. So you start that now. So, and that to me that was awakened in me when I was actually looking at it from a business perspective, reading Stephen Covey's book, going, man, this is a great thing for a family, actually. What can we do for family?
Because they're almost like your and I hate them but they're almost like KPIs in a way, like key performance indicators, where you're going, this is the goal, break that down. How are we going for each individual step? Are we on track? That's really interesting. That's a cool way to look at it as well.
Definitely. Well, and I think that's what the problem is, that, like when you say KPIs, even I shudder. I think, I hate KPIs, or And same thing when we teach SMART goals to young people. And you see the parents go, SMART goals, I've been smashed to bits by SMART goals at work. And we get hammered by these things, so we hate them, but they're actually really great tools. And but really great successful businesses and families come under something where everybody's unified by that statement. What are we here for? What are we here for?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And again, if you look at families where children, whether they've known it or not, have stayed connected, if you look back and go, what were your success things? There was two parents that had a vision, whether they articulated that clearly to their kids and said, hey, did you know this is where we're going? Or they did it through osmosis by role modeling, and they stayed on the path, and the kids naturally came underneath them. I mean, it's something about success, because we're drawn to success.
Yeah.
We're drawn to success. So if there's a mum and dad or two dads or two mums or whoever, whatever the situation is in your family, if you two are the leaders of your family and you lead well, your children will come.
Definitely, because I think if you stay on that business sort of analogy for a little bit longer, the one of the reasons I think that we hate KPIs and shudder at them or SMART goals is because I don't know about you, but I've worked in companies before where the KPIs that I have, for instance, don't align to my job role or where the company's going. They're antiquated KPIs, or they're just terrible. So I think that's so often what we're talking about with like discipline, for instance. You can be constantly disciplining this child, and then moving from that kind of younger into the teenagers where it has to become more of an advice and mentoring. If you have these KPIs that are outdated, which is turn your screen off. I know you're a 17-year-old, but go to your room. It's not going to work, is it? Whereas in a business perspective, if the boss comes to you and says, you know what, we're moving as a company, your role's evolving. Here's your new expectations. How do you feel about this? How can we work together? Most of the time I'll go, heck yeah, I'll jump on. I'm keen for this. So that's interesting.
And definitely, if you couldn't see whether this is unconscious or conscious, if you couldn't see that it was linked to a mission that you were passionate about, I don't think you'd stay.
No.
And we either stay in organizations because the money is their mission, personal mission. Then it's not about the business, or the opposite, that we're part of the organizational mission. And it's important for us, I think, at times to work out what, because we will flip if the money changes, or suddenly go, the money's not good enough for the work you're asking me to do now, or whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely.
And our family is the same situation. Is that do we have a mismatch expectation with schooling, and even in this period, have we got an expectation that our kids are going to continue schools? In Queensland, we've got 5 weeks of homeschool. Do we suddenly take on this expectation, well, we better make sure that our kids are educated over this 5 weeks? I would challenge that.
Are they actually going to end up with the same, is my child who loves the environment of sitting in, collaborating in his science class, is he going to end up with an A or a high distinction?
Yeah.
Do I expect that from him? Maybe not, have to be
and
realistic.
Doesn't match the vision you have for them. And often, again, we challenge parents and say, why are you so focused on academics? Do you want them? Is it part of the vision you've got for them? No, but isn't it right? It's almost like it's actually not about their academics. It's us as parents working through them going, but if they're successful academically, socially, that must mean that I'm doing okay as a parent. We've got to be careful of that. Because, again, often the academics mismatch what we actually want for our kids as individuals. Very rarely when I say to parents, what are you wanting to get? What would be the best things of your children as adults? What would they look like? And I have not ever said someone super successful with a great university degree. I've never had it. People say that they're resilient, that they can push through when things are tough, that they're good people, that I like them and we want to hang out together, that they're kind. I go, wow, you've just said all the values that you could start with right this second. And you could build a mission statement right around that. And not once did it come in with academics. You said perseverance. Now school is a great place for that.
Yeah.
That to say, and I feel really fortunate in the moment where our kids are great. We have no learning difficulties in this home, and I'm really blessed and feel very blessed for that. And their health is great. And so we don't have anything blocking that in their life. So they can see now, as teenagers and high school kids, that their effort is exactly the same as their grades. So when they've seen low effort, they get B's or D's or whatever. And it's up to them. We feed back and go, oh, isn't it good that you can see that if you wanted to get more results out of life, you just put the effort up. Great. That's great principle for life for me. And so they're now starting to say, actually, I do want to succeed. Therefore, I'll put the own effort in. So it's not out of expectation. It's not out of, obligation. It's them recognizing that I reap what I sow. If I put in good effort into my life, I'll get it back. And that's what I want for them more than anything.
Yeah.
As far as actions go.
And that is like one of the main lessons in life, which I think we're all always learning is this. It's very rarely that you have, how do I say this without sounding offensive? Like there's so many people out there that go, there's all these excuses that I have for not achieving what I want to achieve. 99.9% of the time, it's just you haven't put in the effort. Like if you want to get better at speaking, go and learn, go to a course, go and start speaking. But I remember, I used to be an electrician, and I was working at this person's house once, and this around 2:00 in the afternoon. And as I was there fixing something in her kitchen, this lady, she had a call, and you could tell that the person on the end of the phone was like really upset. You could kind of, when you can sort of hear the conversation through the phone, but not really. And so she's like, oh, and I quickly worked out, this lady's talking to her daughter right now. And so this daughter, she's saying, oh, what do you mean you didn't get on the swimming team? Like, how did that, was that stupid coach again? Like that coach who, and she's like, and I was like, what the heck's going on here? And so you're trying not to eavesdrop, but this lady's like 2 meters from me talking. I'm like, I'm going to listen. And she's saying like, that coach or whoever, Mr. Somebody, like he's an absolute idiot. Like obviously, there's no reason that he shouldn't have picked you over the rest of the girls. Like, doesn't he know that you've been sick the last couple of weeks or something like this? And she's like, how about you just go and tell them that you're sick, and then I'll come and pick you up. And so I'm thinking, man, what the heck's going on here? So I'm working there, continuing the working on the job. I was there most of the day. She goes, oh, I was going to go out and pick up my daughter, brings the daughter back. And then I don't know why they did all of this in front of me, looking back on it. But they're like sitting there, and this mum is saying to this daughter, don't you worry, like it's not you, it's the school. Like, you deserve to be on that team and all this. Maybe she did legitimately deserve to be on the team. But I was like, that is not necessarily a good lesson for that daughter right now. Like there's obviously a reason that she didn't make the team. And I was I think I was like 23 or 24 or something. And nowhere near having children. But I remember that sticking with me and going, gosh, I want to be more careful. And it's easier said than done when I don't have a teenage daughter. But I just remember going, man, I've got friends or had friends who obviously were brought up like that, where it's always there's always some other reason why they're not achieving what they want to achieve. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think that like even in that interaction, I would say that's a mum that's in a habit of making the child happy, and they think that's the goal, and that we want our kids to have good self-esteem. So if we keep on boosting them and saying it's okay, it's not your fault, that somehow is going to do that. It's actually interesting is that that's almost the opposite effect. Is that deep down us as kids, they know, oh man, my mum's covering up everything. I'm really useless. And in fact, that the amount of effort she's putting in even confirms to me that she even believes that I haven't got what it takes, So if you're doing the wrong thing, but again, if you look at the principle of that, like even if it wasn't, or there was a reason that she didn't get on the team or what, it's not for us. We just want to focus on our kids and say, well, how do you feel about it? And what are you going to do next? And, because there's some things that we just simply can't control. There's unfairness. There's nepotism in the world where someone gets the job because they know the guy or the...
Definitely.
So there's no point going, and complaining about it, is it? Like really saying, so what can you do with that space? What can you do in that action,
yeah, what's the next step? Like even it's something that I'm learning with this podcast is kind of to get there's a lot of no's that you have to go through to get to, because people are busy. Like, you want to talk to someone and say, I want to take 90 minutes out of your day. For a lot of people, they go, 90 minutes is valuable time for me to sit and chat to somebody who I don't know. There's been, like even yesterday, I had kind of a list of guests and I called a couple and I confirmed a few, but then I had some guy say, no, not interested. Like, and he literally said, you don't have a big enough audience for me to waste my time on. Like, I was like, oh, that's brutal. Bit of not a very nice guy, but like luckily I had been kind of doing development beforehand, like reading different books and kind of to get this resilience where I went, you know what, his loss, you got to move on to the next one. But I think if I kind of hadn't been doing that work, you could easily go, oh, you know what, maybe he's right, or maybe this is not worth it. I've got one no. Like, what's the point of pushing through? And that grit and resilience is just key, I think. Yeah,
it is. And the social science, now there's evidence around that as a success factor, it isn't about academics. It isn't about, less IQ and that sort of stuff. It's actually grit. Having the ability to go and pick it up again. What did I learn from this situation? Do I need to change strategy and get up and go again?
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be interesting actually to see his reaction if you were to say, go back to that guy and go, fantastic, respect that. I'm still keen to speak to you. Tell me what audience I need to get and I'll call you, and to see what his reaction. Because even if he knows the number, you know, and for him to go, actually, well, you've called me out a bit. I need 100,000. Okay, great. At least he'll know next time you ring, oh man, there's that guy who's pretty serious about it,
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I've had other people who have kind of, you kind of have people that I've created a big list of guests that I would love to have on. And there's always a few of them where you go, man, this is a long shot. And I've had a couple that have actually written back and gone, you know what, I'll give you a shot, in this time of coronavirus where we're all sitting at home anyway, I'll give you a shot. So if I had have got bogged down on that guy, I wouldn't have got to those ones, So,
that's right.
It's interesting.
That's it. Self-talk is so powerful, isn't it? Like it instantly creates that dialogue. And if you've got that dialogue that goes, oh man, see, no one's going to say yes.
Yeah. And it's a constant battle. Like I felt I'm learning more and more. And I think it's as we kind of like work on self-development and do you know Phil Slade at all? I've spoken to him a couple of times on the podcast. He's goes to Gateway. He's a psychologist, behavioral scientist. He talks a lot about this whole controlling our emotions and being aware of this ape. So we all have this 100-pound ape on our back who's ready to kind of our primitive side. It's learning to control that. So the more that it's practice, but I'm going, you know what, I can feel that ape kind of arcing up right now, which you go, when you see that email from him, you think, oh, well, that sucks. Like, and you all of a sudden your mind starts racing. I think that it's learning to kind of, click it and go, you know what? No, shut up. I got to keep moving, And that's not easy, but it's practice.
It's not easy. No, and it does take practice, and being emotionally aware enough to be able to go, what does it mean to me? Is there something I need to reflect on that tweaks and makes me better? And if not, then absolutely park it, and go, cool, next.
Yeah. And there's always something to learn on. Like one of the things I said was like, I probably could have sent a more professional email as well. Like there's always something that you can go, what can I learn from? I think it's coming back to the parenting. It's if you were to look at that and go, oh, that guy doesn't understand me. Like, well, I'm just going to give up, because if we're used to, say, a parent saying those things to us about how, oh, don't worry about them, they don't understand you, or vice versa. It's interesting. So it's interesting how it does come back to that parenting. So
and debriefing that, sort of going, how did we go today, or how did we go that interaction, or even debriefing with the kids. I've even said to my son, after we've had a discussion ongoing later and go, I just want to check that went okay, because my intention was that I wanted to just reaffirm this in you or talk of this, but also needed to know that I'm not okay with that. Is that okay? Do you get it? So I think the debrief, and then and even again saying, well, if that situation comes up again, how do we cut through and get that? If we have that constant ability to keep learning no matter what we're doing, I think we're really healthy. I mean, Japanese call it Kaizen. And they call it Kaizen of a business. You'd see that maybe in business books and things of constant and never-ending improvement, but they focus on that. And that's often why Japanese companies, even in manufacturing, are so excellent because they're constantly tweaking. They're never saying this is
their standards and efficiency are constantly improving. Yeah.
And I feel that for us, that I see often schools have worked in a lot of schools, and they've all got mottos that underneath the school. This school is this, and they've got whatever. And the amount of times I see learning for life, and I think, I wonder how the role models are going with that. Are there teachers in this space that are demonstrating that they're full on, that they don't deliver the same lesson all the time, that they're learning for life too, and the principal and the admin staff? Are we all doing this, or are we just expecting the kids to learn for life? Not really life, just learn till 18 and then get out of that life.
Exactly. I remember I went to a school, and it had I went to Manly State School. I can't remember what their motto is, but I had this teacher, and he looked like he had, he was from the 1900s sort of thing. Like, he rocked up. I was waiting to get the cane or something, and that's the kind of way he taught, was this old school. And I hated that class. Oh man, it was the worst. Whereas, and he disciplined really old school. Like, I remember getting chalk thrown at me. He would come slam the metal meter rulers down on your desk and everything. Pulled me by my shirt. I actually this is a little quick story. I got kept down in year 6. I repeated a grade, and his name was Mr. Carlton. And so I hated that class, right? I hated everything about it. Yeah. And then the next year, at the end of the year, my parents kind of said, we had a meeting with the teacher, and mum and dad, this is probably not one of their finest moments, I guess, but well, maybe it is. But they said, just so you know, we decided that you're going to repeat year 6. At the end of the day, it's up to you, but at the end of the day, we'll be making the choice. So I was like, in my head, I was like, that doesn't make sense. So I went, you know what? There's no win here. So I think it's a good idea to be kept down. And mum and dad are like, oh, what a mature decision that is. I'm like, well, I had no choice in the matter. Anyway, I was really excited. I'm not going to have Mr. Carlton again. I've got the other teacher who was this really nice lady. So I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. Next year it's going to be totally different. I rock up, and they used to have you'd go to your classroom, and it would have the list of all the kids' names for that year. Yeah. Sure enough, I was back in Mr. Carlton's class for the next year.
Wow.
Oh, and now I was the repeat kid.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That's crazy. That's an experience.
Oh, yeah, it was interesting. He was like the footy coach, and he was a great football coach because he was kind of like this, one of the boys. But as a teacher, I'm sure he was good, but he used to walk out of our classroom and just light up a cigarette, and it was an old timber classroom with the big windows. So he was literally a meter from you, smoking a cigarette and still trying to teach through the classroom, still trying to teach.
Isn't that awesome?
That wasn't that long ago. That was
that's not that long ago, actually.
Probably 20 years ago or something. Which now, when I say those things now, I think, oh, I am getting a bit older. But
Actually, the moment you can say that was 20 years ago, you think, oh no, what's happened?
Yeah, because I would have been 10, 20 years. I'm 30 this year. So, probably about 20 years ago or something. Maybe
that's it.
That's great. Yeah, anyway. But, that's interesting. So, the Fathering Project, so where's the best place? If dads, parents want to get involved, what's...
everything's on our website. And early on, it said, what are we doing, I suppose, in this COVID-19 time? So we've got lots more virtual interactions. Basically, we've been really building online dads groups. But we've just launched actually last night the Fathering Channel, and that is a platform on our website that you can subscribe to, and we've got something each night. So last night we launched with Cooking with Cameron, who's one of the master chefs who lives in Tassie, and he gets on it with his daughter Ruth and cook each. What was last night? Wednesday. Tonight we've got webinar, and we'll often have, we're speaking into fathering sort of topics and mental health and those sorts of things around parenting and men's health. And we've got some relationship support and lots of different platforms, but also we've always got our content, which is our parenting support content and fathering content, the BRUS principle in deeper sort of platforms. But it's a way really for dads to virtually engage with all of that, but also virtually engage with other dads. So now that we're state-based, each of us in our state offices are really engaging with our local dads, let's say. So, and again, virtually. So on our Tuesday nights, we're doing dads group nights. So we're getting dads to come into a Zoom and just getting guys to connect and start to share and just see what naturally happens, deliver a little bit of content if they're ready for that, but it's more about building a relationship with these men. And just, navigating the differences of working from home, parenting from home full time, the stresses of that, all of us in those.
It's a big change.
Yeah, it's a massive change. And I sort of felt like this collective shudder across definitely across the state when the news comes out. We've got 5 weeks of homeschool. People I've spoken to are worried about what that looks like and what is this going to be. I've been working from home now. This is a month for me working from home, and it's definitely different. I'm actually enjoying it, but it's definitely different. If we're not proactive and we don't have a plan, then it does fall apart pretty quickly. So
for sure. You hear about even with friends that have say teenage children, and the school holidays, especially around the Christmas holidays, and they're going, we just can't wait for the kids to go back to school. Like, we love our children, but we just need them to go back to school. That's not happening.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And especially if you're still trying to, a lot of people that are working from home, or most people, still have the demands of them and the expectations of when they were in the office. So if you've got that, so you've got a boss who's expecting you, but then you've also got these kids at home. Yeah, that can be a real recipe for, I guess, stress and volatility, can't it?
Totally. Yeah. And then also with a thought to people who have now vulnerable economically and financially because of loss of job. With a person who's going to be doing some work with us in our organisation last night, and her husband just found out that he's lost his job, and he was the main income earner for that time. So there's so many things that are happening in place. So the main thing that we always talk about is this communication with your family. Have structured family meetings and have that collective agreement. How are we going to get through this, and what do we want to do at the end of it? And often I say to parents as well is start with the end in mind. Look back. If it's in 6 months or it's at New Year's of 2021 and go, that's over. What do you want to look back on? Was it, even if there was some things that went bad, did we bond together and push through that? Do we show grit in our value system that we went, kindness and love is the number one thing. So it doesn't matter if we haven't got, if we've got income struggles or whatever it is. How lucky are we in Australia? Where I've got to involve to Scott Morrison and that government that have straight away that JobKeeper and Job Seeker at $1,500. And I don't know who doesn't qualify for that. Really, there's so much support there.
It is amazing.
So I feel very fortunate that work has not stopped for me.
Yeah,
and our business as well. But how lucky are we that we live in a country that has been able to react that way?
Definitely. Very blessed. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, John, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for chatting. We've covered a lot more than I expected to cover, to be honest. So, It's been great
cool,
chatting to you and hearing about the real passion that you have for what you're doing, which is really cool. And then also, it's going to be like great to see what, even though that this the fathering project's been going for 8 years, I think you said now, but how you guys have been able to adapt and pivot to match the current COVID crisis. Feeling a massive need. So thanks so much for what you're doing. And anybody listening, head over to, I'm guessing it's just fatheringproject.com.
.org, yes, we're a non-profit organisation, and we're looking for support as far as volunteer mentors for dads groups, and if you wanted to start a dads group in your child's school or your workplace or something like that, it's a great place for dads to get together and start to talk about fathering, and it's that whole sharpening iron of men getting together, encouraging each other and inspiring each other to step into that critical role that we have as dads. For the benefit of our kids, it definitely makes a massive difference. I know that from a youth worker, that we see huge results in kids' mental health and engagement in their own life.
Yeah. Well, I think you said at the start, and you kind of moved away from it, but I think lives definitely are at risk in a way. Like it is critical for sure. Yeah. So
it definitely is. I think the tough thing we're seeing in this is that, that family breakdown is definitely there. We're seeing that in China already from COVID-19, that unfortunately in these times domestic violence goes up and sort of, negative mental health definitely is there. So it's critical time, definitely critical time for us to really focus on the important things.
Yeah, awesome. Well, everybody head over, have a look at that, and if you want to support them and help out, definitely do that. But John, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on, and everybody will see you in the next episode. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Richard. Cheers, man.